What's going on, everyone? It's your boy, Greg Hodge Williams. Welcome to another episode of the PHIner Life Show. I'm here to give you a treat. Usually, Greg is popping the collars with the guests, but today, I just want to show off, Mu Beta Phi Military Fraternity Incorporated. We, have that new King McNeil sweatsuit collection out. Okay, it's not about the sweatsuit, Hill. It's about you. It's about Hill Pluviose, everybody. Now, listen. Let me introduce you to this devil dog, okay? United States Marine Corps veteran, all right? Started his own talk show, Vet Talk with Hill. Has been in the industry for years. I'm talking about Stars, Disney, NBC. And now he's doing his thing. Give it up for Hill Pluviose, everybody. Yo, Hill, I just want to get right into it. Please, let's start from the beginning. What made you want to join the U.S. Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps, and become a devil dog? Let's start there.
Well, before I answer that question, I think everywhere I go, you should do my introduction.
Oh, listen. I could be a hype man. I'd be like, yo, what's up, everybody? It's Hill in the house. What? That talking. Just go ahead, Hill. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it, brother. I mean, I think what attracted me to the Marine Corps was, first, I'm the first person in my family to ever serve in the military, right? And I was a junior in high school when 9/11 happened. And from there, I knew that I wanted to do something. I didn't know if it was going to be the Marine Corps or the Army, the Navy, or any of that, or a police officer or a firefighter. I just knew from there I wanted to do something. And one day I had a conversation with a good friend of mine and told him I was going to the Navy. And he said to me, no, if you're going to go, because his brother was a Marine. He says, well, you should do the Marine. I see you more as a Marine. And I said, well, the Marine Corps it is. So I called the recruiter. And that very same day, I said, look, I want to get out of here. I want to go to the Marines. He said, well, do you have a high school diploma? I was like, not yet. And he said, first, we have to take the ASVAB, see if you can pass it. And then we'll work on, your high school diploma, because I was still in high school. And then we'll make it happen. And that summer, I worked on doing a portfolio kind of thing we had to put together for high school so I can get a high school diploma. And we had to present it to a panel. And luckily, everything worked out. And then I got a high school diploma. And I went straight to boot camp. And as the first person in my family to serve in the military, I didn't know what to expect, but I knew I wanted to do well. I knew I wanted to give it 100%. And while I was in boot camp, I guess the drill instructors, we call them, saw something in me that I probably didn't know I had, right? And I thought I was there to learn, but they saw that I had great leadership qualities, as they said. And they made me a second squad leader. And I was one of 4 people out of a platoon of 100 to be meritoriously promoted to the next rank. And I thought it was the biggest thing in the world. And here I am, a Marine, and I am, being singled out as a leader and given the opportunity to lead other people. And yeah, that's how it worked, man. I just didn't know much about the Marine Corps, but I knew I wanted to give it 100%. And while I was in boot camp, I started to fall in love with the Marine Corps. I started to look to my left and my right and saw young people who are waking up at 4 a.m. to train, to work extremely hard to keep America safe. And I said, well, I want to continue to challenge myself and be one of those people and give it my all. And here we are. Yeah.
So we gotta get more into the journey. I mean, after boot camp, where'd you go for advanced training? And what was your first duty station? What was your experience like, your first couple of years in the Corps?
Great question. So, and my first, how I went in open contract. I don't know if it's just like you don't have a job, so they can even make you a grunt or whatever it was. And I went to Marine Corps combat training in North Carolina. And while I was in Marine Corps combat training, they pulled me out and said, hey, you're a grunt. You're in the wrong training. And I'm like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, they came back and said, no, we made a mistake. You were supposed to be one, but it got filled. So I ended up doing logistics in the Marine Corps. And my first duty station was Okinawa, Japan. That's when the war had just started. It was from the end of 2003 to 2004. And then I came back to the States, where I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And I was there for just a couple of months, and I was deployed to Iraq. And the cool thing about it is I got promoted to the rank of corporal 7 days before I was deployed to Iraq, and here I am with a squad. I had my own team, and I'm newly promoted. I'm just a brand new corporal, and I ended up doing corporal's course, leadership training in Iraq in 2005. So here I am stressing about the workload. I have people who are slightly older than I am to manage, and I am going through leadership school at the same time. And again, I gave it 100%, and I was voted the gung ho. I don't know if we still say that, the gun ho, and I received an award for it. And during my graduation, I think a 2-star general was out there visiting, and he presented it to me. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So let's talk about, your time downrange. What were some of, I guess, the challenges? I've been down there too, Afghanistan, and coincidentally, I got 3 MOSs. My first one, transportation management. So I know how it is. Nothing happens if nothing is moving. What was your daily life, your routine like in Iraq? As a logistics Marine, and just kind of the atmosphere and the responsibilities that you had.
I mean, I was young, right? I think I was 20 or maybe 19 or 20, maybe 20. I want to say around 2021, 21. And you get there, you don't know what to expect, man. And the minute we got there, and this is it was just bad where we were getting bombed every day, and you have people to worry about. Here we are walking around with a flak jacket, Kevlar everywhere we went. And even when you're taking a shower, your rifle is hanging right outside the shower, right? To be able to grab it. And you're managing, young people, and you're trying to make sure we stay together, we stay strong. And you got while I was in corporate course, one of my guys was hit, right? Well, he was hit and almost got his leg cut off. And he ended up going to Germany and so on. So trying to manage the workload and trying to be I tell people all the time, trying to be a therapist, an untrained therapist, to tell young people everything is going to be fine. And, you can be in a defect and you hear boom, boom, you got to get up, leave your food and run to the bunker and take cover because you're getting hit with all types of bombs. The insurgents are dropping on you. And, during our deployment, luckily, I didn't lose anybody from my team. One guy got hit. We lost some people from our detachment. And I came back to the States. And for some reason, I felt more at peace in the war zone than I felt here in the States. So after I got out the military, I ended up getting a job with the Department of Defense as a contractor to go back overseas to do exactly what I was doing. And then after that, my first year, I worked in logistics with the DOD. And the following year, I ended up working in electronic warfare because I saw what was happening, how many lives we were losing on convoys and young people who were dying. And I wanted to do something about it and figure out a way that I can defeat it. And luckily, a company was out there doing the exact same thing. And I applied for a position to work with them. And they sent me back to the States and trained me in electronic warfare. And I went back over and did that for a number of years between Iraq, Kuwait, and Afghanistan. So I moved around those countries a lot.
Wow. So to really go from serving your country in uniform in a hostile war zone to then still serving your country as a contractor, still making it happen, still taking care of Marines. I mean, wow.
It was luckily, not to cut you off, luckily it was for everybody, not only the Marines. We had the Army, the Navy, and my last year in Afghanistan was 2013, I want to say. I went back over and worked as an HVAC tech because I ended up coming back to the States and got trained and got certified as an HVAC tech, EPA, and got a universal EPA license. And if, the desert during the day can be extremely hot, and at night it gets cold, and the COC and the TOC, they're constantly working, and they have these big machines that are running, and we have to keep them at a certain temperature. So I figured I can help in that area as well. So I ended up working with the Army Special Forces. And shout out to the Army, because as a Marine, we talk mess, but you get around the Army Special Forces and even the Army, and you see the amount of work that they put in, you learn to appreciate those guys. So as a veteran, I think I felt more in love with the military and with those who are serving as a veteran, because I got to see, as a civilian, you often say, hey, thank you for your service. So now you serve as in uniform. You don't necessarily pay attention to the work you're doing. It's like we're all doing it together. But when you get out and then you look back and you see the amount of work that young people are doing. I remember one time I was on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and I was working in electronic warfare at the time. So we flew down range to train a group of people who couldn't stay at a cob. The cobs are bigger, big bases. So they stayed at a fob, where our helicopter couldn't land inside. So I had to land outside the fob and then walk inside of the camp to help train these guys. And the very next day, I was in a tent with 2 K9 dogs, and we had a captain in the tent with us, a number of staff and TOs, and we had K9 dogs with 2 military police officers. And I was so tired, I fell asleep the first night, and then there was a firefight not too far from me. So that's when I realized that I was getting too used to it, because there was a firefight. I didn't wake up because I felt like the Marines got it. I know I'm safe. And 2 days later, I went in to do the training. And the next morning, one of the guys that I met, he was only 19, stepped on an IED and blew up. And that made me appreciate what young people, what our troops do even more. And I said, when I get back to the States and work and come back to the States fully, I want to try my hardest to stay within the military community and do as much as possible for the military community, because I think if other Americans get to see and experience what I've experienced, I think our love and our appreciation for our troops would be better, would change. So my experience, what makes me more in love with our guys. So when you see me on LinkedIn doing a number of things and reaching out and trying to do things for the military, it's because it's coming from the heart, because I got to see those guys in action, and I got to see the price that they've paid for my freedom.
Now let's talk about the shift, because you shifted now. You could have stuck with it for all these years, working as an engineer, working with General Dynamics, but you shifted careers. You went from electronic warfare and technical stuff and logistics to media. You started as a PA over at Stars. What made you want to shift journeys?
I mean, honestly, I've always wanted to work in media, right? I studied film production at first. I have my first BA in film production, and trying to crack into the industry is extremely tough. And I made a short film about PTSD when I was in college, and I put it on Facebook, and over 400,000 people watched it. And then they started to reach out to me and say, hey, this is great. Hey, I love this. Oh my God. My grandfather suffered from PTSD, and I've seen him behave this way. My son suffered from it, and I've seen him that way, or my sister, and so and so. So from there, I knew I had something. I knew I wanted to continue to work in media, but also combine it with my military experience and tell military stories. So that while I was in college, I did an internship at Silver Cup Studios in Queens, where I was able to network and was able to connect with the guys that you see from Stars and the TV show Younger with Hilary Duff and so on. So I always wanted to work within that space, but unfortunately, I couldn't find permanent work. So I decided to reach out to MLB.com at the time. This was before streaming was what it is today. So I figured I'll combine my electronic warfare background with my film degree, because I know how to edit and so on, to work for MLB.com. So I was able to explain that to them during an interview, and they hired me. And then later on, it got turned into BAMTech, and then Disney took it over during Disney Plus. And then I ended up going back to college to get another degree, another BA in business with a focus in marketing.
Oh, wow. So, you spent some time over, in the streaming world with Disney, and then you made another pivot And this is where I met you while you were working at this organization. And then you started Hill Talk. So let's talk a little bit about your experience, with NBC, and then now what you're doing, with that talk with Hill. So, I met you when you hit NBC, bam, how'd you get there? And you ended up, manager of marketing, and then manager of client partnerships. And I met you doing helping veterans get their foot in the door. Yeah, how'd you get over there, man?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, NBC had a military program where they were looking to hire veterans with some media experience. And I have a degree in marketing, and I have a degree in film production, and I had experience in the industry for a number of years. So they brought me over to work in client partnerships for the first 6 months, and then I pivoted to work over in marketing. And again, my military experience has always served me in a positive light, where a lot of the organizations that they were working with in terms of marketing were very interested in working with the military community. And I made it my business to learn, I'm super nosy. I ask a million questions. It doesn't matter to me. I always want to know. So while I was there, one company wanted to have a conversation with the military community. And I remember working with them when I was stationed at Camp Lejeune. So during the marketing meeting, I said, well, I know this company. I know what to put in front of them, the stories that they want to tell. And they were, people at the company, at the media company, were nice enough to let me go in there and have the conversation with the client. And then we ended up doing something together where I was the face of the military community for NBC and Golden Corral at the time. And we shot a commercial, and it aired on MSNBC, CNBC, telling the exact military stories that I'm telling you now, how we do so much in the military. And one of the things that I always say is that you get a person right out of high school with just a high school diploma who had probably never been on an airplane or helicopter. But by the time they're 18, 19, and 20 in the military, they're helicopter and airplane mechanics, right? So that tells you these people can learn if people can give them a shot, can give them a chance. And we were able to tell stories like that about how my military service was able to help me to pivot into my role over at NBC.
Nice. Now you go and you're doing your thing at NBC, and then you go do something crazy, Hill. You start Vet Talk with Hill, and you start having these guests on, telling their stories. You start doing your own thing. Tell me, where did the idea come from? Getting tongue tied. Where did the inspiration come from? And what drives you to help veterans tell their story today?
Like I told you, I fell in love with learning about veterans. As a veteran myself, I wanted to know who these people were before the military, because I know who I was before the military is now who I was in the military, and who I am now is now who I was in the military and before the military. And I thought it would be arrogant to think I'm the only one that's that way. So I wanted to learn more about these people. And in the military, you meet so many people from so many different parts of the world, right? The world, because you got people who come from other countries who serve in the military as well. And I wanted to give them a platform to tell their story, and also give myself the platform to help educate people who don't know much about the military, about people in the military. So the idea is something I've always had. And I see that a lot of people had a platform to tell their stories, whether they're basketball players, whether they're artists or whatever it was. And I said, why shouldn't I do the same thing for veterans? I love their stories. People love their stories. And I remember when I first started, I started to put clips of it on LinkedIn, and celebrities would reach out to me and say, hey, I like this. I want to be a part of it. And I would tell them, my ignorance would tell them, no, that's not for you. It's for veterans. And they're like, crazy. I served in the Navy. I was in the Army. I was here and I was there. And I thought it was pretty cool. And and every guest that I had on the show who is a celebrity, and those who are not, I still keep in touch with, right? So we have J. Alexander Martin from FUBU, I still keep in touch with, right? And then we have Victor Almondar, who I went to high school with, served with, and now he's like a big-time Broadway actor with Common, right? And when I was working at NBC, I knew that there was a story that I wanted to tell with Victor. So I partnered with one of our TV shows to do some work in the military community to help tell that story as well. So it's always like connecting the dots. Like I'm obsessed with connecting the dots. So that is why I started the show. It's so many untold stories, and a lot of it helps save lives, believe it or not, right? Sometimes we'll have a conversation that a lot of times these veterans will forget that the cameras are around, and they'll just open up about regular things. And then I get a note from a veteran who's just watching it from wherever they are, like, oh my God, thank you for allowing this veteran to say his piece, because I've gone through the same thing, and I've gone through this and gone through that. So that kind of helped bring the community closer and bring the community together. And I enjoy it, man. I love doing it.
Now, listen, I'm going to have to tell y'all something. If y'all didn't know, J. Alexander Martin, co-founder of FUBU, U.S. Navy veteran, is an honorary member of Mu Beta Phi Military Fraternity Incorporated. Big it up for Jay Alexander, wherever he is. Now he's doing like FUBU streaming and all that other stuff. But right now, you are doing your own thing and you are in charge of your own business. You've successfully transitioned within several careers, 2 major industries. What have been some of the lessons you've learned along the way as far as in anchoring yourself during the transition period that have helped you, or something that, you constantly tell veterans or service members?
Don't give up. Don't give up. If you want it, you have a story to tell. If people don't want to help you tell it, figure out a way to tell it yourself. Figure out a way to tell it yourself and connect the dots. Like I explained to you, when I was working with these companies in electronic warfare, I was able to when I was over at MLB.com, I was able to make the connection because we're streaming. We're getting live stream from other places, it's very similar to what I was doing in the military. And I also managed people. So I was able to explain to them, look, I'm willing to learn whatever I need to do. I'm going to do it. Give me a shot. And people don't have to give you a shot, but a lot of times when you show people that you really want to do it and you'll give it 100%, some people will give you a shot. And those are the things that I tell veterans all the time. Just because 100 people tell you no doesn't stop you from going to 101. That one person that tells you yes will open a number of doors for you. And as veterans, once you get in that door, don't fight for a seat at the table and think because you're seated at the table, that's all that matters. Try to open the door for other veterans, because just like I know our story, people who have never experienced our life, our way of living or our lives will not know our story. Let's be that voice inside to tell those stories to help other veterans get
in. Think you said something. So, Hill, it's that time, man. It's self-promotion time. I'm going to get off the screen and I'm going to let you push out, website where people can watch Vet Talk with Hill, what you're doing. Self-promote, man. Self-promote.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm working on a number of things now. Some things I just can't say now because we're still in the process of ironing things out. But I mean, check out Vet Talk with Hill on YouTube, and please share, comment. And that's my number one thing now, Vet Talk with Hill, because there are so many stories out there that we have to tell, and so many other, I'll tell you something because of the work that I do in the military community. People from all over the world have reached out to me because stories are similar. And there are parents who don't know how to help their own kids or, their own veterans and spouses. And that's another thing I want to do too. I want to help people work and understand who military spouses and military children are. A lot of times when we're stationed overseas for 2 years, we bring our spouses with us for those 2 years. But when we rotate, they have to get up and start and change their lives as well. So when they re-enter civilian world, they can't really find a job because on resume it says, oh, you didn't spend enough time over here. You don't have enough experience. All of that is because we're moving around so much and we're serving our country. And that's one of the things that I want to do. So in Vet Talk with Hill, although it's for veterans, I want to be able to give the platform to spouses as well to talk about their struggle, because I do feel like they serve with us. So for my promotion, that's what it is. Just, help share the story and get it to the next veteran, get it to the civilian who doesn't know much about it, and let's keep telling our stories.
Gotta love it. Now I do this every show. I gotta do it. It's gonna happen. It's right there on the screen. www.mbphikings2017.org. That is www.mbphikings2017.org. Listen, like us, share us We are on every major streaming platform for podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, I don't know, Google, Stitch. We all over the place. Just share the show. And if you got to get in contact with Hill, you just look him up on LinkedIn as well, but be professional. Don't get in his DMs with all this craziness. All right. And if you want to get on his show, hit him up because he's always looking for the latest and greatest. Thank you so much, Hill. Listen, we're going to probably do another episode later on down the line, because I know you got some stories, but each one teach one moment. It happens in spurts. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning into the PHIner Life Show. This is Greg Williams. See y'all later. Peace.